What's going on, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another video, and today I've got one question for every single NBA playoff team. This includes the play-in teams, basically the 10 teams in the East and the West that are going to be in the postseason. These questions can relate to maybe a swing factor that can determine how far they go in the playoffs, a big time narrative surrounding that, maybe how injuries are going to affect them, things of that nature. As usual, we're going to go through it alphabetically from Atlanta Hawks to Sacramento Kings, and as always, there will be timestamps if you want to find your favorite team. With that being said, leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos, and let me know your thoughts on my question down below in the comments, and if you've got another one for your favorite team, let me know that as well. Let's get into it. Kicking things off with the Atlanta Hawks, my question is this the last ride for Trae Young with the franchise? When he and the Hawks went to the Eastern Conference Finals in 2021, just 3 years later, that would have seemed like an insane question, because at that moment, it felt like they were poised to be a powerhouse in the East for years to come, that they were going to take a jump the next year, that Trae Young was a burgeoning superstar who could take them basically anywhere, and instead, they're again in the play-in race. We don't even know if they're going to make the playoffs. They've got to win 2 games to even get there in the first place. Trae Young and DeJounte haven't worked, and now there are rumors that have been circulating since the trade deadline that they could deal one or both of Trae and DeJounte Murray this upcoming offseason. And it makes sense because at the moment, they don't have an easy path to get back to trying to compete for a championship. It's just really not there at the moment, so this may be a good moment for them to start from scratch. So every game that they play from here on out, where they can get eliminated, whether it's the first playing game, the second one, or eventually when they get annihilated by the Celtics, if they make it that far, we could be seeing the final moments that Trae Young ever dons a Hawks jersey, something that seemed insane just a few years ago to even consider. For the Celtics, my question is, can they just stay out of their own way? Everything on paper says that this Celtics team should not only win the East, they should run away with it and probably end up winning the NBA Finals. They are a 60-plus win team. They're way ahead of the competition in the East. Like, the Bucks are 15 games back, I think, as I record this, 15-16. It's not even close. The first seed race has been over forever. They have the best net rating in the league, one of the best net ratings in NBA history. Top 5 offense, top 5 defense. They've got star power with Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Kristaps, Derek White, Drew Holiday, a decent supporting cast. This team has basically everything you could want out of a juggernaut type of squad. However, not a lot of people believe in them because it is the Celtics, and they've had moments in the past where they've been favorited or have been in a great spot, and then they just, like I mentioned earlier, kind of get in their own way. Like, it's Jason Tatum struggling in the 2022 finals. It's last year against the Heat where Jaylen Brown really struggled, and it put them in that 0-3 hole where they almost dug their way out, but ultimately couldn't get the job done. Now, this Celtics team is better than any squad they've had in the past, and I've put myself on the record before saying I do think they run away with the Eastern Conference. They're easily the best team out there, but there are still some moments of hesitation, like tonight as I'm recording this. They got kind of blown up by the Knicks. They just didn't seem prepared. They had all their guys ready, but they just didn't really put in a great effort. Moments like that make me worry a little bit that the Celtics are again going to find some way to get in their own way when theoretically they should be blowing teams out. Next up for the Bulls, my question is, what is Coby White going to do in this postseason setting? He's played in these moments before. It's not his first rodeo, however. This is going to be the first time he's playing in these high-stakes games as one of the guys. Of course, made that MIP leap this season, made himself a cornerstone. I'm excited to see what he does in these moments. I'm not expecting much out of the Bulls, to be honest. I'm not super excited about them in these play-in games, but I do think this could be a great chance for Coby White to further cement himself as a cornerstone going forward and announce to people on a broader stage that, hey, I've really arrived. For the Cavs, my question is, can they convince Donovan Mitchell to stay? If you didn't know, after next season, Donovan Mitchell's contract will be up and he will be an unrestricted free agent. He could theoretically sign an extension this offseason that would keep him in Cleveland for a while, but a lot of people don't expect him to. In fact, most people expect him to walk and not even come close to sign that extension, not even really consider Cleveland, and I feel like those rumors have gone back all the way to the first day that he was traded to the Cavaliers. A lot of people think he just wants to be in a big market, and while I've said it for a while, I think this could be a good spot for Donovan to be, I understand if he's a little bit hesitant, because while they've got young talent like Mobley and Garland and Jared Allen, it hasn't resulted in much up to this point. Now, they've only played one season so far going into the playoffs, which was last year, where they did get embarrassed, but this year maybe things are different. Maybe they go into it and they put things together, they go on a run, make the second round, maybe even make the conference finals, especially with the East being kind of beat up. This could be a year where they really take advantage of that. However, if they once again disappoint, I think the chances of Donovan Mitchell signing that extension or considering re-signing next year pretty much disappear, and they may have to seriously consider trading him to avoid losing him for literally nothing in the offseason. Maybe even a deep playoff run wouldn't be enough to convince him to stay long-term in Cleveland, but at the very least, it would be some type of selling point going into negotiations this summer. For the Mavs, my question is this Luka's crowning year? all season, Luka's been playing the best basketball he ever has. He's been more efficient. He's putting up ridiculous numbers. Not that he wasn't already. They're just even more ridiculous somehow. He's gotten better in basically every aspect of the game. He's pushed himself into the MVP conversation. And I've seen a lot of people anoint him, or at least say that they're starting to feel that Luka may be the best basketball player in the entire world. I think Jokic still has a bit of a lead on him, but Luka's certainly in that conversation. And if you have that opinion, I don't blame you again with the absurd stuff he's been doing. But you know what would go a really long way to convincing more people that's the case is a deep playoff run. And the Mavericks have been one of the hottest teams in the league for a while now. They're really peaking at the right moment. And it feels like they could go on a dark horse run to the conference finals, or maybe even to the NBA finals if they really hit their stride. And Luka does what he's always done in the playoffs, which is be dominant, especially with this new, even better version of Luka, who knows the type of stuff that he's going to do, as well as Kyrie, who's been here and done this before, has a ton of experience. The Mavs are a wild card out there in the West. If they go to the finals, say they beat the Denver Nuggets along the way, taking down Jokic, if they win an NBA Finals somehow, Luka, I think, suddenly is going to be considered by most people as the best player in the world, and this could be the start of the Luka Doncic era in the NBA. For the Denver Nuggets, the question is, how is the bench going to hold up? I've got no qualms whatsoever about the starting lineup. Might be the best unit in the entire league, but the bench is a little bit shakier. You know, they've got good players like Christian Brown, Peyton Watson, who's been amazing all year. Justin Holiday has been solid in his role, I guess you could say, but other guys like Zeke Naji have been disappointing. Reggie Jackson has been good at moments, but has really struggled at other times. DeAndre Jordan is a theoretical backup big, not a super exciting option. They've got some young players who haven't played big roles, but could theoretically step up if they need. It's not the best bench in the world. Now, the Nuggets really didn't need a great bench last year to go on a run. Most nights they played like 7 or 8 guys, but with the Western Conference being much better than it was last season, I worry about a little bit if the Nuggets get into some foul trouble, or if they're just not working, trying to find solutions off the bench. We'll have to see if it actually happens, because maybe it's not a concern whatsoever. But when you talk about the Nuggets, the bench is certainly the thing that I'm most worried about. For the Warriors, my question is this the last ride for their core? Ever since they won that first title back in 2015, it's been Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green at the head of the snake. And of course, you know, a little bit of Kevin Durant mixed in there as well. But those 3 guys have been here for all their titles since then. However, this may be the last time we see these 3 guys share a court over these next couple of weeks. They're in the play-in game right now. They may end up being in that top play-in game with the 7-8 seeds. They might be in the 9-10 one, but regardless, they're going to be a play-in team, and it's not exactly what people are hoping for with this Warriors team. And with Klay Thompson going ahead and being a free agent this offseason, if they disappoint, if they don't make the playoffs, or if they bow out unceremoniously, it seems likely they're going to have to make major changes, whether it is letting Klay walk, it's trading Draymond Green. I don't think anything's going to happen with Steph Curry, but maybe he puts a bit of pressure on them too to make big changes. I don't know what it's going to be, but it feels like unless the Warriors make a surprise deep run, we've seen the last of this big 3 and the greatness that they led the Warriors to for years. For the Indiana Pacers, my question is, what version of Tyrese Haliburton are we going to see? Tyrese earlier in the season was a consensus All-NBA guy. He was putting up like 27 and 12, dominating in the in-season tournament, making himself a household name. And then he dealt with that hamstring injury, I believe it was, and hasn't been the same player since. He's been really struggling over the past few months, to the point where when I made my awards video the other day, I didn't even have him on an All-NBA team, and everybody who I've seen make those ballots also has not had him there. It has not been a great second half of the season for Tyrese whatsoever, and the Pacers have also been kind of meh. Ever since the Siakam trade, which was supposed to really bolster them, they haven't really found their footing, but Tyrese has had some good games as of late. Maybe he's getting back to his usual form, and if he is, that could be a big boost to the Pacers trying to pull off an upset in the first round, make some kind of run, or at the very least make a series interesting. However, if Tyrese Haliburton is struggling and doesn't look at all like the guy we saw step up in the in-season tournament, then I think this whole thing falls apart, and the Pacers are a very quick exit in the first round. For the Clippers, my question is, are they going to be healthy? It's the same thing every year with LA, where they have a decent season, but then injuries catch up. It's like a ticking time bomb with them. And sometimes it happens early in the season, sometimes it happens mid-playoff run, but something always feels like it pops up. And now here at the end of the season, when the Clippers are the 4 seed, they're again dealing with a concern because Kawhi Leonard has not played in the month of April due to a knee injury. We don't know anything about it, what the concern is, how severe it is. They said it shouldn't keep him out for the playoffs. That's at least what Tyronn Lue said recently. But there have been points in the past where the Clippers have said, oh, an injury is not really a big deal, and then it was something massive, especially for a guy like Kawhi, who has a history of knee injuries. It's pretty concerning, and even if he does come back and is ready for game one, how long before it flares up again? How long before maybe Paul George deals with something, or James Harden? Can they actually stay healthy for a run? Because if they can't, playing a team like the Mavericks in the first round, they are going to get decimated, and suddenly everything falls apart for them, and they may lose their best chance that they've had in a while at making some type of actual playoff run. For the Lakers, my question is, can they repeat last year's feat? Last year, they of course went from a play-in team to a Western Conference Finals appearance. Coming into this year, it felt like they had a pretty good offseason. I thought they would be in the Western Conference Finals again, would be fighting for one of the top 4 seeds. Instead, they're going to be a play-in team at this point. They have lost the opportunity to make it up to the 6th spot. They have kind of squandered the year, and part of that has been Darvin Ham, part of that has been injury, some inconsistency with the roster as a whole. Whatever it's been, the Lakers have not lived up to expectations, but maybe they still have a bit of magic in them from last season, where again, they could go in as a play-in team, get a favorable matchup in the first round, and go on some type of run. It feels like with LeBron and AD, anything's possible. They need D'Lo to step up. Austin Reeves has to be great. Rui has to replicate a lot of the shooting we've seen from him this season. It's not out of the question entirely, although I think the West being way tougher makes it really difficult. It's how they're going to have to do it, though, if they want to make any type of run, because they just can't seem to make it easy on themselves in the regular season. For Miami, my question is, can Jimmy Butler save this team? Once again, the Heat are going to go into things as a play-in squad most likely, and they're going to have to fight their way from the bottom if they want to make a deep run. They did it last year with Jimmy Butler putting on one of the best individual efforts in a playoff series I've ever seen against the Milwaukee Bucks. Maybe he has that in him again. Maybe I'm wrong for kind of doubting the Heat this season, but I don't know. It just doesn't feel like the squad has the same energy to it. And I'm worried about Jimmy Butler because in the past, he's, had these weaker regular seasons, but this year it's felt a little bit weaker. I feel like he just doesn't have that same extra gear that we saw from him at points last season. Maybe he's just really saving it for the playoffs, but I don't know. They're really going to need a lot from Jimmy Butler to make noise in a really deep Eastern Conference, especially if they have to go up against a team like the Celtics in the first round. It's a little bit scary for Miami. Maybe Jimmy Butler will again save them, but I don't think that's a guarantee like some people are expecting. For the Milwaukee Bucks, there's an obvious question, and it's what's going on with Giannis. The other day, Giannis just suddenly went down non-contact, grabbing at his calf. He has a calf injury, and we don't know the current state of it. We don't know if he's going to be back for the first game of the playoffs, if it's going to take a little bit, if they would have to win a series for him to return, and even when Giannis does come back, how is he going to look? Especially because, I think about calf injuries. I think about Kevin Durant when he was with the Warriors and he injured his calf and came back in the finals and tore his Achilles. I know those two injuries are pretty linear to each other. So there's a lot of concern surrounding him. And if the Bucks don't have Giannis, I just don't think they stand a chance against a lot of teams that could come out of the play-in. And even if they somehow win that series, they're not going to win the second round. They really need Giannis to come back. He's had the team on his back the whole season. It just suddenly put an even bigger damper on the Bucks season when it was already kind of up in the air about how they do in the playoffs. Without Giannis, they're nothing. So they really need him back, and I hope if he does come back, he's not rushing his way into action and risking a bigger injury. For the Wolves, my question is, how is the offense going to hold up in the playoffs? All year, the defense has been elite, beyond elite. It's been easily the best in the entire NBA, led by the D-point Rudy Gobert and a bunch of great defenders around it. But offensively, they've been pretty hit or miss. There were some nights where they look amazing with Ant going off, Cat drilling a bunch of shots, etc., etc. And then other nights where they look lost. They're turning the ball over a lot. It snowballs. They get frustrated, take bad shots in the fourth quarter. They're able to unravel a lot. And they struggle oftentimes to create consistent looks in the half court. That can't happen in the playoffs when half-court offense becomes incredibly important. You're playing great defenses, great teams overall who are going to slow the game down. You've got to be able to get some good looks. And especially with Cat just now returning from injury, not having a lot of time to ramp up going to the playoffs, I'm a little bit more concerned about that than ever. Maybe they're going to be able to put things together, and with Ant rising in the playoffs like he did last year, they'll be fine. But if their half-court and just overall offensive woes continue into the playoffs, they could be in for an early upset. For the New Orleans Pelicans, the question is, when is Brandon Ingram going to be back, and how is he going to look when he returns? BI was fantastic all season, a big reason why the Pelicans have been so good. They've been in a playoff position for the whole year, and then he got injured towards the end of March. We haven't seen him play since, and at the moment I'm recording this, we still don't have a timetable for his return. Maybe it'll drop by the time I upload this or something, but at the moment, don't know when he's coming back. And even if he does come back here at the end of the season, he's not going to have a lot of games to ramp back up before being immediately thrust into a high-stakes playoff series against one of the top seeds in the Western Conference. They really really need him to be successful. They went just 6-6 in the games without him, which was enough to stay afloat and keep their seeding alive. But if you want to be the top team, you need BI to be a star. You need him to be the secondary guy next to Zion Williamson. If he's not playing up to his usual level, it's probably not going to go great for the Pelicans. And I just don't know how he's going to look after missing like 3 to 5 weeks with a knee injury. For the Knicks, my question is, what's Julius Randle's future with the team? This may seem like a weird question because he's not going to play in the playoffs. He's out for the season with a shoulder injury. But at the same time, the Knicks still look pretty good. As I'm recording this, they just blew out the Boston Celtics at Boston. They still have this great defense with OG Anunoby and Isaiah Hartenstein. Jalen Brunson has become an all-NBA second teamer. Some people are even arguing first teamer. Like, they still feel like they can make a run in the East. And say they go ahead and do that, they make the conference finals, give the Celtics a tough series or something like that. A lot of questions kind of start to pop up about whether or not this team needs Julius Randle. I mean, he's disappointed in the playoffs in the past, and he's got a big contract. He's eligible for an extension this offseason. So maybe rather than extending him and keeping him here long term, they think to themselves, we probably don't need him, and maybe they trade him this offseason with some of their picks for a star player that becomes available and find someone who fits a little bit better to fit around Jalen Brunson, OG Anunoby, and the rest of this team. As weird as it is, I think this playoff run that doesn't include him may help determine what Randle's future is with the Knicks. For the Oklahoma City Thunder, the question is, does the lack of experience matter? Every single NBA podcast or YouTube video or tweet I've seen this year about the Thunder feels like has mentioned that they don't have a lot of experience. And as a Thunder fan, I'm sick of hearing that term. I wish I could just mute it from every aspect of my life. It's been prevalent, and I don't blame people for questioning it because it is important to have playoff experience, especially when the Thunder could go up against these squads that have guys that have been there and done this a million times. But at the same moment, the Thunder have basically everything you'd want to see in a team that can compete for a championship. They're great offensively, they're great defensively, they've got an all-NBA MVP level guy in Shea, they've got a great coach, a great supporting cast with rising stars. The Thunder feel like a team that could easily have some success, but yet there's a lot of people that are saying, oh, I'm not expecting anything from them because they're young. And I get that, but at the same time, the Thunder doing stuff that no team with this average age has ever done before. They're breaking the mold, and I think it's not possible that they break the mold again and go on a really deep run without that much experience whatsoever. For the Magic, my question is, how do they generate consistent offense? They're like the Wolves in a way where they have this juggernaut defense but a pretty weak offense comparatively, except for the Magic are way worse on that end. They have a bottom 10 offense in the league and have really struggled to score the whole season. They don't shoot the three-point ball very well. Their leading scorers like Paolo and Franz aren't the most efficient players in the world. They're going to rely a lot on the defense to give them any success in the playoffs, but they have to find a way to score, and maybe Paolo is a playoff riser and he elevates. Maybe Franz Wagner kind of rediscovers his jumper, which has been pretty lackluster this season. I don't know what it's going to be, but if the Magic want to be more than just a very quick first-round exit, they've got to find a way to score the basketball at any point. For the Philadelphia 76ers, my question is, can they still break the curse? The curse, of course, I'm referring to is their inability to make it out of the second round. They've been very close a number of times, went to multiple Game 7s, but have never gotten over the hump and been to a conference finals. And this season, earlier in the year, I felt like they had a real shot. Nick Nurse was coaching the team better than anybody I'd seen the Sixers have in a while. Tyrese Maxey became an all-star, and of course, Joel Embiid was playing the best basketball of his career, putting up like 36 points per game, and felt like he was going to run away with the MVP award. So it felt like a great year for the Sixers. The supporting cast looked better. I really thought there was a real shot they could go out there and make the conference finals. Then they dealt with the Embiid injury and they kind of plummeted down the standings, but since he's come back, they've not lost a game, and Embiid is starting to look more and more like himself every single night. So can they still make that run? Is it too late in the season for them to refine that magic, to rediscover their momentum and push their way to the conference finals? Or does the path open up for them where they play some injured squads, teams that they have an advantage on, make it out of the play-in, and find their way to the first conference finals in the Embiid era? For the Phoenix Suns, my question is, can their talent overcome their resume? The big three on paper of Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and Bradley Beal is one of the most talented in the entire NBA. Durant is a lock to win an All-NBA team. Booker, I put him on my All-NBA team. I think he's got a good shot at that. And Beal, while he hasn't been insane this season, has been pretty good. He still is a good player. The problem is beyond that, not a lot of guys are contributing, and it's been a very disappointing year for them where rather than being towards the top of the Western Conference and widely considered a contender, they are a play-in team and likely will be a play-in team going into the postseason. It's not optimal. The resume says this is a squad that's a first-round exit, but there's still a lot of people that think because they have that top-end talent, mainly Durant and Devin Booker, they can find their way to still win a series, they can still make a run. It's hard for me to gauge that because, yeah, they are extremely talented, but nothing they've done this season has convinced me whatsoever that they've got a chance to make a run against a ridiculously deep Western Conference. And finally, for the Sacramento Kings, my question is, can they overcome their losses? The guys I'm referring to are Kevin Huerter and Malik Monk. Huerter is out for the season, and Malik Monk is probably going to be out at least through the first round series. If they make it to the second round, maybe he could return, but that's all up in the air for the moment. They're living without two of their best players at the wing position, and Malik Monk in particular is probably going to win Sixth Man of the Year. He has been one of the most important parts of their success this entire season, been their backup point guard, a facilitator for them, one of the most clutch players in the league this season. And they're not going to have him for the playing games that it seems like they're going to have to play, or a potential playoff series if they make it that far. Those guys being lost is a major blow to a team that I was already pretty concerned about going into the playoffs. Maybe Sabonis steps up and Fox does, and they find a way to make things competitive still, but I'm starting to think it's just going to end up as a lost season for the Sacramento Kings, where rather than improving off last year, they disappointed. And with that, those are my questions for every single team going into the playoffs. Let me know what you thought of your favorite team's question, or if you've got a different one, let me know down below as well. Like I said earlier, leave a like and subscribe if you did enjoy. I really appreciate all y'all's support. Going into the playoffs, going to have a bunch of really fun content prepping for it, series previews, breakdowns of playoff games, everything in between, so you're not going to want to miss that. It's the best part of the NBA season, the best part of the year for my channel, so I really appreciate y'all tuning in. I'll see y'all later. Rewind, say it back.